So, as I've mentioned other times when I've done introductions, it's always my joy to kind of put some kind of spin or context of what we're doing in terms of our Faith in the Arts series as a whole. So, I wasn't really sure how to frame my remarks until I saw the picture that Jeffrey put on his Facebook, which is, you have on the materials that he printed out, kind of a fuzzy picture of the very clear picture that's on his Facebook. And it looks like it's beyond the green door. It's a green manicured lawn, 2 evergreen trees, an ivy-covered wall with a sculpted outline of a door, which might be real or not. Green is the most common color in the natural world. In the liturgical year, it is the color of the season of Pentecost, between the day of Pentecost in the late spring and the first Sunday of Advent, 4 Sundays before Christmas. This period of time is also referred to as ordinary time, because we spend more days in this season than any other. We live in a world of green. In Jeffrey's picture, you see all this green, and then realize there's a door. Though it is shut, you want to walk through it. We see what is before us, but we do not see what is beyond. We have hints of what is beyond. From sacred texts we read, from the Psalms. Lift up your heads, O gates, and be lifted up, O ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in. We read from Revelation, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and eat with him, and he with me. We are not certain who, in this picture, is the one who can open the door. There is no handle. It is a mystery. Maybe Jeffrey can tell us what this means. Please join me in welcoming Jeffery Beam.
I want to thank Mary and Reverend Gravener and Elizabeth Matheson and whomever else is involved in this series at the church for inviting me. I was thrilled when they asked me to come during a period when they were focusing on creation. And also I want to thank Roger Hale, who is filming today's event. So there's going to be a few pregnant pauses when he has to change the battery. So if I sort of stop and we're sort of winking at each other, that's what's going on. I want to begin with a quote from Van Jones, the social activist, who says, "The whole human species is on trial now. These next few decades will determine whether or not our species is a locust species or bumblebee species. We'll either scour this planet to the bones and destroy our civilization and most other species, or we will find a way to bring ourselves back into harmony with our mother, the earth." Here I am, the first time this great-great-great-grandson of Scots-Irish Calvinist, Jacobean rebels, and the Cherokee have spoken from a pulpit about such an impenetrable topic as creation. Although I have recited poetry, proclaimed Shakespeare, and sung a few bluegrass gospel songs from this pulpit and from others, I'm honored to be with you this afternoon to share some of my thoughts about creation, creativity, and spirituality through poems and songs. They speak for themselves, but I will knit some meditations among the poems which I trust will illuminate how a little redneck boy from Kannapolis, North Carolina, a lint head from the Cannon textile mills, came to contemplate the cosmos and write poems. Each of you has a copy of an essay which I felt compelled to write today to give you a fuller narrative of my response to the theme creation and my poetry. Some of my comments that I interweave with the poems will be taken from that. Rilke, in his Book of Images, suggests we leave our rooms, our familiar places, and travel to beyond the worn-out threshold to the far off, and to lift slowly one black tree against the sky and create the world. Trees and birds figure frequently in my poems. I wrote my first poems as an adolescent in the top of a mimosa tree, and I honored that sylvan gift lately in a one-line poem to the mimosa tree from my book Gospel Earth. Words came to me, and oh, they smelled peach, but shaggy. Dictionaries list 7 definitions for the word creation. 1, the act of producing or causing to exist, especially the act of bringing the world into ordered existence. 2, the fact of being created. 3, something that is or has been created. 4, the creation, the original bringing into existence the universe by God or some other force. 5, the world, the universe. 6, all creatures collectively. 7, an original product of the mind, especially an imaginative, artistic work. So I've been reading and thinking and rethinking about all these definitions, not just the universe's 13.7 billion years and the 4.6 billion years of Earth history, but the Earth's 8.7 million species and the 6th great extinction that we are facing, which we may very well be part of, and the material civilization we've created. When I say part of it, I mean us gone along with these other creatures. I have pondered the speechless, wordless, silent, transcendent mystery of the Tao, the Atman, Brahman, the Logos, Yahweh, Allah, the Christ, the Great Spirit, the not this, not that. I have been reminded that the luminous core of the universe, that therein all earthly contradictions vanish. This is a poem song called The Gift that I wrote when I was about 17 years old. It's from my second book, The Fountain. You who come from the answerer, let it be known the wheel in the sky burns for you. And I and my clipped wings in the child you lost in the desert. While I was gone, my feet unblessed walked, and now the gentleness of crows, grace is upon them. Where I have come to, the fire in the hearth exits from stones. Every small thing listens with new eyes. The house's dark corners notice the light. Sorrow sits nowhere. Sorrow sits nowhere. Einstein said, the most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and science. To know that what is impenetrable to us really exists is at the center of true religiousness. Now here, Rumi's more poetical expression of the same thought. Sit, be still and listen. You are drunk, and we are at the edge of the roof. When I was little, I had visions. At the age of 3, I sat up in bed, fascinated, as I watched my maternal grandmother's ghost walk through my room the night she died. I had only ever seen her confined to a wheelchair with polio. I had never seen her standing, nor seen her floor-length hair, except up in a bun. She strode through the room to my mother's, hair down. Once at 5, I saw a tree full of fairies, declared it so to my mother, who claimed to see it too. Here's another poem from that 17-year-old poet, fresh from his childhood visions. It's called Mauve, and it's from my first book, The Golden Legend. There is nothing that can make you visible. Nothing that can save you from the oblivion of shadows. A plumed darkness, a young bird, sensitive and joyous. The sunlight enters the room and sheds plum blossoms on you. But the shadows enlarge and deepen. They fill the fruit bowl with damsons and the vase with salmon mums and roses. Where but here is the somnolent rhythm of the feminine, the sinuous reels of sacred heron eyes, so calm, glowing like birth, and polished whalebone. The waves of light go out in ripples. They enter the mahogany of the chairs, the labyrinthine bivalves sailing through our speech. You are gathering beast under your wings. We rise up, pale phoenixes in the dawn. We have been where the soul welcomes its own shadow. We have been where the soul welcomes its own shadow. We have been where the soul welcomes its own shadow. I loved this song. We always sang at Easter in the Methodist church that I grew up in. During the year, I traveled the state giving readings from Ibby Patterson and mine's book, An Elizabethan Bestiary Retold. I often sang this song, but I revised it just a little bit to bring some goddess energy into it. This is my Father's world, and to my listening ears all nature sings, and round me rings the music of the spheres. This is my Father's world, I rest me in the thought of rocks and trees, of skies and seas, his hands the wonders wrought. This is my mother's world, the birds their carols raise, the morning light, the lily white, declare their Maker's praise. This is my mother's world, she shines in all that's fair. In the rustling grass, I hear her pass. She speaks to me everywhere. I started writing poems at the age of 10. My grandmother, a bodhisattva if there ever was one, nourished the budding poet just as she nourished her garden. You'll hear a little bit more about her later. Singing and reading, gardening and cooking together with me. So I wrote this poem, The Loom, as a memorial poem for her. She lived to be 93. The summer before she died in the winter, she was still out in the yard growing her tomatoes and cucumbers, her peppers. She was only sick for about a week before she died. She had begun work in a textile mill at the age of 13 and worked until the age of 65. And then from 65 to 93, she had a $15 a month pension from Cannon Mills in Kannapolis. Now, the last two lines of this poem are a quote from William Morris, the great British arts and crafts designer. He's talking about that a particular kind of loom is needed to make particular kinds of fabric. And it seemed to me that indeed my grandmother had a particular kind of loom. So the poem is called The Loom, for Willie Mae Gill, 1903 to 1995. She lived for cotton, the growth of sons, one daughter lame, a mother ornery, mean. She walked with coleus, gloxinias, begonia stems rooted in a well-dug humus from the woods, sung hymns, washed pots, forgave. left nothing undone. Molted in summer's tomato-scent air. In winter, took wings warped by textile shuttle. No searing hardship, no humidity feared. Not any fabric weaves on any loom. Come in, folks. You probably know this quote from William Blake. To see the world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wildflower, hold infinity in the palm of the hand, and eternity in an hour. Blake recalls for us what we already know if we take a wee instant to listen, and a dust-mote galaxies swirl. As a little boy even, I knew one thing quite clearly, and so as a young man began looking for affirmatives. God was not a he, nor a she, not even an it. God was beyond all definitions. I seek a name for that presence, invisible ground of sympathy, an emptiness filling itself with its own impulse to manifest, the field of consciousness. How did something from nothing come? Currently, across the world, there are a number of collaborative research projects between Tibetan monks, Christian meditatives, Vedic yogis, and quantum physicists. Science is relearning what it once knew in its youth. The great secret is out. Basil, Bishop of Caesarea in 300s, describes it most plainly. For thought cannot travel outside was, nor imagination beyond beginning. Let your thought ever so far backward, you cannot get beyond the was. And however you may strain and strive to see what is beyond, you will find it impossible to get back further than the beginning. Many quantum physicists respond that the ultimate origin is no more provable than the claim of something other, whatever force that other might be. Cosmologist and poet Richard Grosinger puts it this way: the universe of substance may have been created exactly, precisely, irreproachably in the manner that physicists glean it was. Big Bang, primal flare. It is possible to honor all that and still leave room for reality's self-arising ground luminosity, for consciousness having its own immaculate origin. I'm content with that. Here's a poem by the 15th century Hindi Bhakti poet Kabir. It's called Breath. Are you looking for me? I'm in the next seat. My shoulder is against yours. You will not find me in stuptas, not in Indian shrine rooms, not in synagogues, nor in cathedrals, not in masses, nor kirtans, not in legs winding around your own neck, nor in eating only vegetables. When you really look for me, you will see me instantly. You will find me in the tiniest house of time. Kabir says, student, what is God? He is the breath inside the breath. My first poem changed the way I saw things and how I might describe them. If I were a starfish, I would make a wish. That first poem, already intrigued by the minimalist exposure of the maximum. My earliest influences were, of course, the great mystical and visionary poets and artistic movements. They gave me a path to articulate in poems the nearness of the inexpressible, defining my small role as a poet in opening Blake's doors of perceptions. Here are two poems from my last book, The Broken Flower. They're two of the three thematic poems of the book. This is called Credo. Now, when I talk, it is not just to say this or that or what is between. It is to say what is between. Over there, under the sycamore, runs the argumentative periwinkle, the blue eye of southern spring. Over there, the whistle of chickadee and bluebird. Who swings the rightful cadence of the blues, the melancholic swarm of words, thick with dribble and slang? To my own self be true, to say what is between the periwinkle, the chickadee. I've never wanted to write the perfect poem, only the imperfect as the human is, as the stone underfoot's not perfect, but perfected by its being stone. The poem perfected by its being, and me being human also that. I've always wanted the underside of things, the side shaded by moss, the coolness under the walkway stone, the silver and spotted backside of the Elaeagnus leaf. I have always wanted the elegance of the unseen, when the light first comes through and the shine is there, all the time wanted. I have always wanted the poem perfected.